Attention, ladies and gentlemen, the Planet Green Trees Show is underway with your host, attorney Michael Komorn.
To the Zoom here. Alrighty.
We have launched.
Alrighty. Thank you for being here today. We're officially starting Planet Green Trees, episode number 501. I want to remind all Planet Green Trees listeners that we celebrated episode number 500 last week. It was quite a...
It was a hootenanny.
Hootenanny party. I would say bizarre. It was a bizarre. Is that a thing?
It was such a party. I'm still recovering.
It is. It was. We're all a little bit behind schedule, still weighing on our mojo. In any event, today's date.
Wake up the next day.
Yeah.
2/11.
It's tough.
February 11th, 2021. Planet Green Trees, episode 501. Yeah. Today's title is called Disquisition. Did we decide what that meant? I know it's one of the words of the day. It'll circle back there.
Okay.
And thank you for listening. We are should be live on Facebook, YouTube, and other podcast channels.
We're doing it live, Tommy.
We're doing it live. Tonight's guests, Robar from the Helping Friendly Tinctures, calling in, I understand. And see, there's some of the topics we may be talking about, not in any particular order. There may be a rant, there may not be. How to pass a drug test for weed, the ultimate guide. Cannabis stocks nosedive as rally driven by hopes for U.S. legal reform comes to a screeching halt.
Screeching halt.
Legalization of cannabis.
If only we could have seen that coming.
Legalization. Was there somebody giving out stock tips too that we know? There may have been.
There may have been some chatter.
Talk about liabilities. Legalization of cannabis should be on Biden's to-do list.
Yeah, should be.
Cannabis-infused seltzers from LEVIA launching in Massachusetts with indica, sativa, and hybrid blends, and the half-legal cannabis trap.
Uh-oh.
You're listening to Planet Green Trees, Michigan's #1 podcast about cannabis, legal issues, licensing, regulations, etc. And let's go around the room here and introduce our colleagues and friends who are going to be participating. Today's question is this. During the period of your growing and aging, you may remember a period of music called disco. Please identify if you ever found yourself involved in a disco dance, dancing to disco. If so, where were you? And did it involve the hustle?
Oh. Okay.
Introducing our esteemed panel here. We've got the Bunker Boys starring Tommy, Justin, and Dirty Dan, hiding, not for the cameras. Thank you for being here, guys. I appreciate all the work you do. Moving around the room, we've got Jim Powers. Jim Powers, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everybody. It's good to be here. I was born in 1980.
All right.
Which was right as disco was checking out. But I will say that when I was a child, my exposure to disco was usually involved with the Police Academy series. So that was really my only.
All right, that's fair.
My only exposure point.
That ages you and explains that you probably missed that whole era.
I did.
I have a much more specific recollection. I'm 10 years your senior, at least that, much more aged. And I don't mean to expect anyone to move around there that we're calling out people's ages, but they may have heard of us, seen from a vantage point of a child. But let's hear what Amanda Joslin says. She's here with us. She came in hot today.
I did.
Coming in hot.
I did. Sometimes it happens. You can't help it.
Amanda is, of course, Planet Green Trees' special weekly critique of cannabis products and dispensaries and the activity going on there. But also she has the most infectious laugh, and we verified this at one of the recent episodes where we had the ongoing laugh track. Dan was running the show.
There was a ton of applause. A lot of applause.
Ongoing, the applause track. And, Amanda could not. Well, anyway, so Amanda.
Can we get a round of applause from the studio?
I should have that button over here, really.
Yeah.
That's what we
There we go. There we go.
It just kept going. I was like, Dan.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it became an issue like, what is going on?
Right. Someone throw those guests out. Amanda, what do you say? You remember the disco era? What was it like for you?
Michael, that's funny because one of my favorite movies as a child, probably not age appropriate, was Airplane, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is there was the funniest scene in that movie where they were on the dance floor and it was like, pew, you know, doing
Yes,
that
they
whole
were
thing.
right.
Yeah.
So that was my most memorable experience, I guess, was just, you know, viewing it on a movie. But also, John Travolta was the bee's knees when, you know, he was definitely known for like the Saturday Night Fever, and then, you know, of course, I think some Soul Train and stuff like that was playing on the TV.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
So those just little snippets, but yeah, I think I was born in 74 in the 1900s. Okay, you hear that referred to as like the 1900s nowadays, and it stings.
It does.
A little.
Wow.
So
I haven't
I
these
thought
damn
I'd throw
kids.
that out
Not
there
heard that.
for you guys. I
Damn
should have put
kids.
trigger warning in front of that statement, but either way, here I am.
You know, that scene in Airplane, I think, is the it's like the
We're doing
cutaway.
it live.
It's like the cutaway to the Saturday Night Fever,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah,
what it is.
Totally was.
exactly,
Yeah.
So
exactly.
that's right. The
Yeah.
and
He had the moves,
Looks like
too, let
I
me tell
picked
you
the
what.
wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
And then it kind of transitioned into Patrick Swayze. And let me tell you a little something. That guy had the moves too.
He did.
All
Roundhouse.
the ladies liked that. Yeah, and Dirty Dancing was his.
Oh, right.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
that was
Who didn't
that
like
was the
Dirty
one.
Dancing?
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, that one was the one that got the
Oh,
ladies
buddy.
drooling.
Yeah.
Dirty Dancing. But I had, you know, speaking, I have a question. What age were you guys when you heard and kind of processed the song Lola from the Kinks?
Oh, right.
Okay, I was listening to that on the way down here, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Nobody knew what it meant. No.
You know, I was a kid, just like, you know, just going along with the song and stuff,
Yeah.
and you don't really put the things together, and you're like, "Wow."
No, it's
Even
pretty.
then,
It's a
they
charge.
were talking about this, you know.
Oh hell yeah, they were. People have been doing it for all time. That's
Yeah.
It's just what happens.
That's just how it
Doing
goes.
it live.
Doing
Yeah.
it live.
Anyway,
That's right.
I digress.
All right.
Next, around the corner here, we've got the invaluable dear friend and rover at Komorn Law, retired police officer and 1970s rock and roller. It's going to be interesting to hear what he's got to say about disco. But please welcome
Fly
my
like
dear
me.
friend Steve Miller. Steve Miller.
Some people
So,
call him the space cowboy.
My most memorable disco moment in dancing was at my sister's wedding. I was probably 7 years old, dancing to the YMCA.
Oh, yeah.
Disco.
Oh,
There you go,
yeah.
Disco was big back then.
Yeah.
And then they can't forget the memorable Kisco album, Dynasty.
Oh, my. Is that a thing? Oh, wow. They did do that, didn't they?
Yeah.
They did.
I don't
So
remember
that the song "I Was Made for Loving You," you know, Kiss will still play that live,
Yeah.
and that sounds a lot different now in a live version than it did back then on the recorded Dynasty.
Huh.
It was totally a disco song. A lot of that album was that was a different album for them. They were trying to find their way somehow, some way. I
They
think.
capitulated to the fever of the time, which was disco.
To the night fever.
There was a Kill Disco thing at Shea Stadium, the Mets, that like broke into like a riot. It was like $5 beer and like bring your disco records and blow it up, and it turned into like a riot. People were getting killed.
Yeah, there was a whole big movement of Disco's Dead, wasn't there?
WRIF was doing that here, if anyone remembers. All right, moving up to the
Dick the Bruiser.
Zoom room here. We've got someone that is oftentimes confused with and they've been identified as John Travolta. He is the Rasta rabbi in our world. He's maintains that he knows every case that's been issued for the.
He does.
He is an encyclopedia, a law encyclopedia in his own right.
And like all abstinence counselors, he's learned how to fill every hole. Please welcome our dear friend, Alan
Especially in the
Piesner.
Zoom
Alan
room.
Piesner.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure to be aboard the Planet Green Tree spaceship as we cruise overhead, spewing forth the latest knowledge of medical marijuana law. And this spaceship flight is being sponsored by Komorn Law PLC. You can find us on the web at komornlaw.com. It's the best place to go if you ever have an issue with medical marijuana, whether criminal law or getting a license, or you have any issues with criminal defense or anything along those natures. Contact Komorn Law. They're batting 1,000 on their licensing applications. Now for the disco, I have 2 words. Disco sucked.
You didn't like it? You didn't care for it?
Yeah, not really. I don't know.
So you didn't go to any of the clubs back in the
did.
day where they were just like disco balls and the whole scene?
Yeah, I did, but it was mainly just to hang out on the side and smoke joints.
Really just for the balls.
Yeah.
Jamie, that's where you went. That's why you went to the disco. The various dangling balls.
Oh my.
Alan spent some time in the 70s, I understand, as a socialite running to and from Studio 54. There's pictures of him all throughout the New York Post in that era. But it's a time that I don't think he likes to talk about a lot. Moving up to the Zoom room here, we've got, I think he started in Footloose himself. If he's not from that exact area, he certainly consulted on it there in the South where dancing wasn't allowed.
Wow, yeah.
I
What
think
in the world?
he's often been quoted as saying the following.
Building suspense.
I had a really, oh yeah. He's often been quoted saying, "We all need to come together like butt cheeks to stop the crap. Please welcome my dear friend, Jeff Frazier."
Thank you, but Jesus said that no good comes from dancing, so.
Exactly. It's the Footloose consultant. That's what I said. He was on that set there explaining
Yeah.
how...
That's crazy stuff right there.
Having said that,
Yes.
I was 15, 16 when Saturday Night Fever came out, man. It was high school, even the little bitty country town where I grew up. Somebody hauled one of these lit dance floors,
Yeah.
over at the local honky tonk. They put in the raised disco floor, and it was a thing, man. It was a real thing. It's funny. The very next year, Travolta came out with Urban Cowboy that was filmed at this honky tonk I used to go hang out at. So in 2 years' time, he had the two best-selling albums, and the two dance trends, country western on one hand, that was making a comeback, and disco that kind of intruded upon, what ultimately became classic rock, which we all love.
Right.
Yeah, brother, how you doing? How's everybody?
Everybody's good.
We're good.
We miss you.
Yeah. Wondering when you're going to be back over in these parts. Probably not soon, since we've got like a couple of inches of snow out there, and I've heard a few more flurries coming our way.
I know Texas is in a crisis. There's supposed to be below 30 degrees, temperatures coming up and rain. It's winter. We get 1 weekend of winter every year, and this is it. So people are freaking out. They're taking out their winter clothes. They're driving very.
They get
Texas didn't know how.
their Uggs and their North Faces and everything got all bundled up for like 60-degree weather.
Yeah, you tell Texans that there's a hurricane coming, and they become like the 300, the macho man, bring that hurricane. But shit, man, you start talking about winter, cold, snow, man, and like the cowardly lions.
I was in Texas when it snowed one time. February. It was in beginning of early February in San Antonio. We had snow as I was leaving on the bus to go fly to New Jersey, Fort Dix, New Jersey, for more snow. But it was snowing when I left Texas that day.
That's rare. San Antonio, man. It's pretty far south.
It was just a few flurries, but down there it was a big deal.
Yeah, I have some family that lives out in California, and they had posted Northern California, but it's not usual. It gets cold, but not cold enough for snow. Who's muted over there?
Well, let's get our dear friend Jamie Lowell on. We love Jamie Lowell. He's here. He's, of course, the individual who wants to...
Who's got the show playing in the background?
Lives out in California, and
show playing in the background. Mute.
Northern California, but it doesn't. It's not
Justin!
so it's muted over there.
Mute him!
All right, Jamie. Jamie, of course, is the individual who refuses to return to our show live until we rescind the no shirt, no shoes policy, which we're debating right now. But please welcome our dear friend, Jamie Lowell. How you doing, Jamie?
Hello, very good. Hanging out in Muskegon at the moment.
Muskegon? What are you doing over there?
Checking out the new Rare cannabis retail store. It's awesome. Great
very
place.
Cool.
One of your videos there would be quite
Excellent.
appropriate. You'd dig it.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's spelled R-A-R-E, correct?
R-A-I-R.
R-A-I-R.
And they're vertically integrated, and they grow aeroponically.
Okay. Wow, that's interesting. So, Jamie, for the listeners that may not be totally hip to what that is, what is aeroponics, and why would that be unique?
Well, basically, I'm not the world's biggest expert, but the plant's not in a medium per se. The roots are kind of hanging out. They're getting misted with water and nutrients, and they're absorbing it that way and growing without, so then ultimately, after time, there's a lot of time and energy and cost saved on not having the medium, but it's a lot costly to get started with, but over time it planes out.
That's interesting. I would love
to. We talked about it on the last Jazz Cabbage. He was on there, one of the owners, Patrick Frakes, for almost the whole show and got in depth into it. So if anybody wants to check.
Sweet. Okay.
So when I was about 12, I was going to a junior high school. So it was a weird situation where it was only one grade. It was 7th grade. I took disco dancing as like an elective activity. It did include the hustle.
It did?
And then I danced at this place called the Teen Scene in Monroe. But then as I matured and got more into 13, 14, I, as did the likes of Adam Brook in the comments, joined the Detroit Rockers Engaged in the Abolition of Disco, sponsored by, WRIF, and got into that for a while. And then I got older and realized that disco is really cool, and I love it, and the Bee Gees rule, and that's where I stand now.
Very cool. So do you? So you still? Did I hear you right when you said you're still rocking some Bee Gees?
Yeah,
yes.
Bee Gees rock. Jamie, if you were like at a wedding or something and a hustle broke out, would you be able to jump in and run it off and have rhythm with the crowd, or?
I think I could watch like one run of it or something like that, and have it all kind of come back. I could jump in, figure it out. Yep.
Sure.
We should do a Zoom call next week. Maybe we should do a class. Jamie, if you could brush up over the week, we could, have you up there instructing the audience, the listeners, or the viewers, and maybe you could give us a little lesson.
Coming soon to a podcast near you, the Plant Green Trees Flash Mob. Flash mob. Right.
Yeah, it would be fun, and it would be exercise for folks who are stuck home.
We could do a disco.
It was just like a little over 40 years ago that I had that class. So
dust that shit off. It's time to shine it up. Shine that stuff up. It's like muscle memory. When you learn how to ride a bike, you don't for 20
Showing of
years.
hands, including the Zoom. Anyone ever heard of Joe Cornell? Joe Cornell? Alan? Help me. No? Okay, never mind. All right, let's go on. It's we got our guest in the queue here. I'm assuming that this is Robar from the Helping Friendly Tinctures, if I'm saying that right. Welcome to our show, Rob, and appreciate you being here on Planet Green Juice tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about Helping Friendly Tinctures. What is that all about, and what can you tell us?
And give
well,
us
we're a hemp company. It's a Helping Friendly hemp company. We offer literally, all the gambit of everything. We started off as a topical company. That was the first product and kind of what got us established. And now it's growing into, obviously tinctures, obviously hemp flower and things like that, trying to, be as clean and as sourcing it the best possible way we can and being as transparent and trying to stay ahead of not only trends, but just staying ahead of what's happening with the scene as a whole, because so much is happening on the hemp side that I think sometimes get lost a little bit on the THC side.
Sure.
But yeah, lots going on with that, really.
So tell me this: are you farming yourself and growing the legal THC hemp, or are you sourcing it
No,
from
we're
other?
buying.
Okay.
We're a processor. We're a licensed processor, so we're buying, manufacturing.
Okay.
But we source from actually only a couple of different places around the country, and trying to do as much Michigan as we can as this market grows.
Sure.
As we have more availability of, good clean hemp to work with, really.
Sure.
I mean, it's all out there. It's just
right.
a matter of working through.
And you raise it. Go ahead.
Tell us about how you started getting into this first, and secondarily, we'd love to hear about some Delta 8, because that has been a very big. There's a big buzz in the community about Delta 8, so we want to really know, how did you get into this whole thing, and give us the scoop.
I got into it by basically, probably like a lot of people, trying to treat my own issues. I have advanced peripheral neuropathy, a few other different chronic conditions that have led to a lot of pain issues and different things. I got my card in 2010. Been around the Waterford area in this community, in the cannabis community around here, since it really kind of started here. And I remember, last week, kind of everybody joking about smoking. I don't think I've ever smoked with you, but I do remember meeting many of you guys a long time ago, at the Waterford Compassion Club stuff and things like that. And as that grew up, it was where did I fit into all of that? Was, I was just a guy trying to treat myself, and then started to use topicals at one point, and started to go into places like Bloom and Ann Arbor, which is probably the first place I really used a topical. And I really loved it. It just was kind of expensive. So I was already making edibles at home, and I kind of just started let's mess around, and started making something for myself. And then as I did that, started to meet other people with MS patients, a lot of fibromyalgia patients who came to me and were asking about it. So they were, I guess, my first beta testers, and went for about a year of just making it as a THC product, really. And then going beyond that to how can we do this beyond? How can we make it accessible to everybody? It wasn't, beyond Michigan, beyond wherever. And that's kind of where I started doing that. From there, we just kind of moved on to, bringing it to the masses, I guess. I don't know. From there,
where can people find well, first of all, tell us about the Delta 8, but also where can people find your things, the products that you carry? Is there a website?
Yeah, we have it on the website, thehelpingfriendlysav.com. But also, right now, I think we're in about 40 provisioning centers around Michigan. And then, in the front side section in the head shop area, where a lot of the CBD products are being sold and things like that. Some really good partners like Live in Ferndale, Green Buddha there as well, Red Bud Roots, all the Sky Mints, all the, Pleasant Trees. So a lot. Blooms. And it's been a slow grow. And I think what's really done is just help us, eke out a bigger thing. Elevation Station.
That's right.
What?
let me ask you something while we're talking about blooms. I know you mentioned you walked in there and you used to go in there and you'd find a product and it was very expensive. Now that you're selling to them wholesale for their retail sales, are you charging them more than normal people? You normally would? Just kidding. I wanted to ask you about this. You're describing a very interesting phenomena that I think is kind of important to point out, which is that. And it even is more, you mentioned that you're able to sell in retail locations that are selling your product, but there's nothing preventing you from, allowing non-licensed places to sell it. There's no per se prohibition against it. And the point I guess I'm trying to make is that, the marijuana, cannabis and or the illegal THC cannabis, which is greater than 0.3% THC, in Michigan has all these specific requirements. The market is a little volatile. There's limitations of the source of where it's being grown. The cities are controlling this. The municipalities opting in, opting out. And it's all over the place. And there's a lot of tax dollars being made on it, et cetera. Then you turn to the same plant, cannabis sativa L, but a little bit less, small portions of THC. There's virtually no regulations. You can interstate sell it. You can buy it from a farm in Canada and get it shipped to you. And you can sell it in gas stations. And there's a competition and a quality and a price. And there's virtually no regulations at all. In fact, there's a good argument to be made that the intention of the recreational law, Jamie Lowell, no finger pointing, Jamie Lowell, and its intent to get to marijuana, treat marijuana like alcohol, regulated tax it like alcohol, and you think about the places where alcohol is found, a party store, coolers with beer, and it's like that all over the state, and no one's making beer in their bathtub anymore because you can go into a store and the price is reasonable and it's available for you, and there's other ones to choose from, and they've created this phenomena that has eliminated prohibition. Now, the same thing's happening with cannabis sativa L, 0.3% or less. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere.
You know what I mean? It's like they
is.
treated it like tomatoes. Everyone can grow it. It's not a crime. It's not a controlled substance. It's in every store. You want to sell it to Heinz? You want to sell it at this place, the specialty market? And the distinction of the same plant being sold in these other mechanisms is, like if you're going to try to take this leap that you're describing of being, the lack of regulations, the lack of this developed industry has kept the prices down. Competition is solid. You can get it anywhere. If someone's making it in their backyard, it's still being driven by who's got the better supply, who's sourcing it. What's not hot. And it's like virtually no problems. And you went through this. The hemp industry has leapfrogged this insane economy that's restricted and not organic. And and I think the cannabis industry is a long way from where the hemp industry is. And the hemp industry got there without any of these growing pains, so to speak.
And then now you guys get the Delta 8. The Delta 8.
Well, the biggest thing I think really with the hemp thing is that we have our own definite hard struggles as everything plays out. I don't know. I go back and forth all the time myself with, what's better, to be in a legal THC market or to be doing what we're doing in hemp. Obviously, to be sold everywhere is what it is, and establish a brand that's viable, effective and viable, and connecting with people, because we want to go beyond. I'm not going to say someday down the road with other plant therapies, and things like that, because. But yeah, I agree, because we do have a certain amount of, like in Michigan, we're in all these centers, and also in Michigan, we're also in all the smoke shops, a lot of smoke shops, a lot of. Health food stores. Health food stores now selling Delta 8.
Sure.
Does it get you high? That's what everybody in America wants to know. Are you gonna get high?
The scientific term is.
Well, you feel it.
Do you have psychoactive effects, Rob?
CBD.
If you ingest Delta 8, will you receive psychoactive effects?
Yes.
All right, there you go.
I tell people all the time, it's just, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for effect. And sometimes that's why I think it's become so quickly popular, not only in non-legal states, because they don't have as easy access, but also in states that are legal. Like here, we're just finding a whole different crowd of people who, maybe the people who want mids. Let's just say that, I guess.
Yeah.
Some people like mids,
Yeah, some people.
I'm just saying as far as like what they want to consume on a daily.
Yeah. Some people.
In all honesty, pre-rolls, D8 pre-rolls, that's how they feel and taste to me. Nice, pleasant, but it's like, it's not raging. It's not super heavy on the head. It's just nice and kind of calm and relaxing. But again, like any other THC product, Delta 8 affects different people different ways.
So
tell me, Delta 8 is the hot button right now.
So what types of products do you offer with Delta 8 in them, and can you get like a Delta 8 flower? So tell us about that.
Delta 8 flower as a whole is what it is regular hemp flower that has been sprayed or infused with Delta 8 oil. And again, Delta 8 is, it doesn't naturally occur in the plant. It's broken down and converted from isolate, CBD isolate, basically. And it gives you much of the effect. Kind of like I was alluding to a little bit before, like even in the dispensary market where we have this people seeking out THC products, a lot of the cancer patients and things like that have come around and really identified with Delta 8 because it controls their nausea better. It doesn't cause the head to race so much. It just gives more of a more grounded feel. But it also carts and things like that. As far as what we sell gummies, which have been super popular. We've got these here,
Very
which
cool.
are
Very cool.
25 milligrams each, coin. I say most people will dose if you're a regular person who eats regular THC Delta 9 edibles, then, you want to go pretty close to them. They're about, it's not exactly the same as like if you eat 25 milligrams, it's not exactly the same as eating 25 of Delta 9.
Okay.
Close, but
you would say you would have to eat. You would be eating more of the Delta 8 versus the Delta 9 to receive the same effect?
If that's what you're looking for. As far as the relief side of things, I find that, I personally eat 100 milligrams of THC at a shot, Delta 9.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I use to stay on top of my overall pain levels and my, my conditions.
Right.
But I also find that if I take about that same amount of Delta 8, I get close to that feeling as far as comfort goes, but I don't have the same overall focus that I really get off Delta 9, which is what I really like during the day.
And so you also carry a variety of vape pens, correct? Or vape cartridges with Delta 8?
We just introduced a full spectrum vape cartridge. We're working on a Delta 8 one, but to be honest with you, a lot of the carts that are out there, they're using the Delta 8 oil. If you see one, in my opinion, that says 98%, 97% Delta 8, depending on the lab that tested that, depending on, that whole process, the SOP used by the lab, it could run hot on Delta 9. So you could be over the 0.3 total that is required, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a common thing. It's happening all over. A lot of people just don't care.
So, what should somebody be aware of if they're going to go and purchase CBD in closing?
I mean, the Delta 8 stuff?
Just in general.
In general, testing as a whole, reliable, good testing. We're going through a process right now of introducing full panels on everything, and it's become super expensive. We're about halfway through all of our products. And that's just so that we can have it. We know what's coming down the road. The FDA is going to start looking at these things. They're going to be requiring you to have, GNP certified. It's all these different things as it rolls through. The things to look for as a consumer is definitely, the source of it. And not to say that price is a thing to say, oh, because it's cheap, it's bad. It's just a matter of, just like everything in CBD,
Or let me ask you a couple questions. You mentioned the regulations coming with the feds. This has been a threat for a long time. We were running the Michigan hemp industries.
It's not a threat.
Listen. So there was always a lack of regulations. I mean, obviously the CBD, the hot, sexy CBD for ingestion oils, foods, etc. Just because they are ingestibles are going to have certain regulations attached to it. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, there's should be expected some kind, for all the other materials.
And they probably should, right?
Right. Some are going to be consistent with other regulations. Like, for example, hair. The regulations regarding hair and what's allowed to be put in the product is much more limited than, for example, some
beauty products have a totally different pathway.
Exactly. All right. So, but I'm saying, there in all the things that I mentioned that have not existed, that have created this tomato model